As Jeff said, my name is Geralyn Coopersmith, and I'm the Global Director of Performance and Fitness Training for Nike. It's a relatively new role for the company, and in that role, I'm in charge of all trainer content and education, fitness content, personal training experiences. In other words, anytime a Nike consumer would be interfacing with Nike relative to a fitness service or fitness and performance information, it goes through my group. So it's a really great experience. I love my job, and as one of my coworkers is fond of saying, I get speeding tickets on the way to work. And that's a good thing. We get nothing out of this talk. That's a thing we're going to be discussing quite a lot today. So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to give you a little bit of my story, and I won't go too far back, so don't get scared. Baby pictures are not following this. But when you look at it from a distance, I feel like I'm probably the least likely person to have ended up in this particular profession. Because growing up, I was not an athlete. I didn't play on any sports teams. To this day, if you throw a ball at me, it will hit me in the face, I guarantee you. That's just not where I came from. And it wasn't really until the year between my senior year of high school and freshman year of college that I started working out, and it changed my life. I had no idea that you could do something physical and it would literally change your body. And that was only the first part of it. I'm preaching to the choir here, I know. But the fact that it changed me so much physically made me really change emotionally, because I realized there's so much that we have control over that we don't realize. And we're infinitely more powerful than we could imagine. That you could change your body, and ultimately at a cellular level, through doing something on a regular basis, became very profound notion for me. And I became obsessed with that idea and really wanted to share my experience with other people. Well, I didn't really know that that was even an option to be in the profession, because we're talking now, this is early 80s. And I ended up going to Emerson College. I was a theater major because I had done a lot of acting in high school, and that was my passion. It was something I loved doing, and I wanted to be an actor. So I went to, I was in that program for about a year and a half, and then one day, one of my theater professors, who I really had enormous respect for, showed up. I think he may have woken up on the wrong side of the bed. He was a little bit crotchety that day, and he proceeded to tell us for an hour that if you're not willing to suffer for your art for the next 10 years, you shouldn't be here. So I got up, and I walked down to the registrar's office, and I got out of that major, because the idea of suffering for 10 years just really didn't appeal to me. So after that, I was kind of lost and not sure where to go next. And I ended up transferring to NYU, New York University, and I didn't declare a major for a little while, and I just tried to figure out what I liked. Took a lot of different courses, took the prereqs I had to get through anyway, and I stumbled on a lot of psychology courses that I absolutely loved, and I thought, you know what, this is the thing to do. I'm going to go into psychology. So that was what I got my degree in, and that's me with my mom and dad on my graduation day from NYU. And when you graduate with a bachelor's degree in psychology, you're qualified to do nothing. That's it. You're qualified to do nothing except go get a master's degree in some other aspect of psychology. And that really didn't appeal to me either. So I was a little bit at a loss, and for lack of anything else to do, I decided I would go into advertising and public relations, because that seemed kind of interesting. So I started working for this public relations firm. And the first day there, it was a pretty good firm too. It was on Fifth Avenue in New York City. It was kind of prestigious, up and coming agency. And I walked in the first day, and it was a sea of cubicles. And it was fluorescent lights, and everyone looked miserable. And it was like Brave New World. They were all at their computers. And he's showing me around, my new boss, and all I could think was, how many years until you can retire? I thought, ooh, that's probably not a good thought when you're 5 minutes into the building. So I was, at that stage in my life, not very happy. And this was a series of about 3 or 4 years where I was in advertising and public relations, but I kind of hated it. It was a day job. I looked at the clock, and oh my gosh, 5 of 5, oh, 3 of 5, 2 of 5, 5 o'clock, I'm out. Really couldn't stand what I was doing, and I thought there has to be something better. I can't imagine that I'm supposed to spend my entire work life miserable like this. So I happened upon 2 books that completely changed my life. And if you haven't read them, even if you're the happiest person on the planet, which I hope you are, I can't recommend these highly enough. One is called, how many have read either of these books? Okay, game changers for sure. The first, Do What You Love, The Money Will Follow, and the second, Wishcraft. I can't honestly remember which one I read first, but the theme of both of these is the same. The idea is that you're supposed to, they take you through a series of exercises, and you're supposed to strip away all the, well, I can't do this because, or I should do this because, and just knock all that out of there and say, who am I at my core? What drives me? If I could do anything in the world, what would it be? And they ask you to think about your perfect day. What would your perfect day look like? What would you do first? What would you do then? How would it end? Where would you be? And so in going through that exercise, at that point, fitness was such a part of my life that all I could think of was I would be in a gym all day if I could do any single thing, be any single place. But in those days, personal training really wasn't a profession yet. We had, I'm dating myself, aerobics instructors, and I thought, well, I could be an aerobics teacher, an aerobics instructor. And that was a thing. Jane Fonda had brought that out, and that was, that was definitely a thing. But personal training was kind of in its infancy. So I decided I'm going to try to pursue something in that realm. But I didn't know where to start because it was also before certifications were a thing and before the internet. It's like the Stone Age, right? So there was no place to go to get information and figure out what my next move was. So again, through happy coincidence, I did some investigating and I found out this building with the flags is Marymount Manhattan College. And Marymount Manhattan College was 5 blocks from my apartment in New York City. And they had a program in fitness instruction program. Fitness trainer or something. It wasn't personal trainer. And for 2 years, I was in this program. And it was an amazing program, even by today's standards. It was undergraduate level classes in everything from anatomy, kinesiology, exercise physiology, fitness testing, program design. And who knew? Does everybody in this room remember when, as a layperson, you first understood that there was more to exercise than Shape magazine type of articles, right? Not to disrespect Shape, but it's a different level, right? And then you're like, there's a whole science here. Who knew? My mind was blown. So for 2 years, I was in that program, and that was, at night I would go to the program, and in the daytime I was still working in advertising and PR. At that point, I was working for my father-in-law, though, who was an artist, a commercial artist, dealing with advertising agencies. So I had an easy boss, and I made good money. But even still, I couldn't stand what I was doing. I really didn't like it. I didn't feel like it was giving value to the world in general. I didn't feel good at the end of the day about what I did. Over time, when I graduated the program, I started to pick up clients, I started to pick up classes, and before too long, I had enough business cobbled together that I could leave advertising and PR, and I was thrilled. And eventually I was asked to go to this place on the other side of the slide, and that is what's now actually an 85th Street Equinox, but at the time it was the hottest training studio in New York. It was Apex. Madonna worked out there when she was in town. It was really cool to be there, but that wasn't what I loved about it. That was just an extra benefit. The place was filled with the most amazing people, from the front desk to the shop, to the trainers themselves, to the group fitness people. Everybody was passionate about helping people get better. And I loved it. I thrived. And I would get there at 6 in the morning and leave at 8 o'clock at night, and I would have stayed till 9 or 10 if I could, but they're kicking me out of the building. I just loved it. And I was so jazzed up. And within a very short period of time of training, I was training there, I was teaching some classes there, they asked me would I want to get into management. And they offered me what was called the associate director position. So in that, I was in charge of putting together classes and getting the trainers onboarded, and I started doing that, and I loved that. And in fact, I found that as much as I loved my fitness life before that, that whole mentorship aspect of it was just that much, that jazzed me even more, to help other trainers to get into the business, even though, P.S., at that point, I hadn't been in the business for under 2 years, for sure. And I'm keeping the slide up because life kind of went full circle. Then I got a phone call from one of my teachers at the Marymount Manhattan College program, and she said, she called me in, and I had no idea why she wanted to meet with me, and she said, listen, I'm giving up my class. And her class was my favorite class by far, and I loved the classes there. And she said, I want you to teach it. And I about hit the floor, because I had been in the industry about 2 years, and I basically spent 45 minutes telling her why I was the wrong person for that job. And she spent 45 minutes telling me why I was the right person for that job. And I'm thinking, come on, there's got to be tons of people more qualified. She said, you went through it, you were passionate about it, and you're embodying it. I feel like you can do it. And her belief in me was so strong, and I had so much respect for her that I thought, I got to do this. I got to do this. And I was scared out of my mind. And I started teaching, and the class was amazing for me and apparently very well received. And I loved doing it, and I loved teaching. So for a couple of years, my life was all day at Apex as a manager, and then most nights of the week being at Marymount Manhattan College to teach. And I loved it, loved it, loved it. After a couple years, the owner of the studio, the Apex studio, just needed to make a change, work-life balance. It was just not working for her. So she decided to sell the studio to, of all places, Equinox, which comes in the story later. And I ended up a little bit of a gypsy. It ended up being a blessing in disguise in a way, because she closed the gym, we were given notice, she gave us severance, and we were basically told, take all your clients and go. So we left with all of our clients, and we went to independent training facilities and cobbled together places to go. But we started with our own personal businesses with a full roster of clients. It was a pretty sweet deal. So the running around the city, didn't love that as much, but the other stuff far outweighed it. So that was really great. And around that same time, I had a lot of other opportunities that were very cool. I was contacted by people who knew me in the industry and asked if I wanted to be on a TV show called Prevention Magazine's Body Sense. That guy at the bottom corner, that's Mike Rowe, who's now done Dirty Jobs, and Somebody's Got to Do It on CNN. He was the host of the show. And we shot, wasn't on for very long. We shot 24 episodes, I think. It was on CBS for a while, and then it was on syndication on Discovery Health. And that was fun. And then I did projects for Pfizer up there in the corner as a workout video for people with arthritis that I did with them. And then I did another TV show where I was the resident fitness person on a show called Simplify Your Life. And they had different experts, and I was the fitness expert. But those were extra little parts of my life that I loved. And again, the first time I was asked to, someone called me in to have a meeting. I had no idea what it was about. It was a production company out of Philadelphia, and they said, would you be interested in being on a TV show? And again, that time I didn't try to talk them out of hiring me, but that time I was thinking they're insane. And I was thinking I was terrified. And I remember telling my good friend who was a model just before I shot, like the day or two before I shot, I was so nervous. And I said, she'd done a lot of TV, and I said, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous, I don't know what to do. She said, do you know what you're talking about? I said, well, yes. She said, so just talk about what you're talking about, do what you do, and don't worry about the camera. And it was so funny because that changed everything. And every time I was on TV, people would say to me, you're so natural and relaxed on TV. It's because I wasn't thinking about being on TV. So if you ever have that opportunity, it's a little tip. It was a game changer. But another step out of my comfort zone, but then it opened up a door of a lot of fun projects. But I still didn't feel, I felt like I needed to know more. I felt like I needed to continue to evolve as a professional. And I decided to go and get my master's degree because, again, at this point, I didn't have a degree in the field. I had my undergraduate, which was psychology. I had 6 fitness certifications at this point. I had gone through a bunch of certifications, but I still didn't have a degree. So as fate would have it, Teachers College Columbia, also in New York City, has a great program. And it was an exercise physiology program, but it had a focus on teaching that as well. So you learned how to be a teacher, and you learned the science on a much deeper level than I ever knew. And that opened doors for me in my own mind. I went to Teachers College. I remember my first class was an Intro to Neuroscience class, and I walked in there kind of thinking I was all that at this point relative to the industry. I'd been in the industry then 7 years maybe, and I really felt like I was pretty competent. First class in, I had no idea what she was talking about. And I walked in feeling really smart, and I walked out feeling like an idiot. And then I really got excited and jazzed about that because I thought, there's a whole world out there that I didn't even know existed. And I'm going to have an opportunity to learn stuff at a completely different level than I ever thought possible. So for the next 2 years, I worked full-time, running around the city doing my training. And at night, I went to Teachers College, and I loved it. I felt like I used so much of my brain there. What do they say? Use like 10% of your brain, supposedly. I felt like I used 90% while I was there. It was really mind-expanding and very, very exciting. But at some point, I thought, I need to, women, we have a biological clock, right? And I had hit the snooze button on mine many times by this point. And I thought, if I want to have a kid, I need to figure that out soon because time's a wasting. So my husband and I decided to move to Connecticut, and we were lucky enough to have the world's greatest kid. And so this shows you how unprepared you are for things. In my mind, I was going to have my son, and then 8 weeks later, I was going to jump back into some situation with this mythical daycare that would be there at 4:45, where I would need to drop him off, and there till 8, and of course would give him loving attention and certainly not have any germs. And P.S., oddly enough, that didn't exist. So I decided I was going to stay home with him. So for the next 4 years, I stayed home with my son, and I trained like 8 to 10 sessions out of my house. I had a little home gym. But I was very isolated from other people in the industry, and still, the internet wasn't a thing. So it wasn't like I could connect that way digitally with people, and I felt very isolated. The time I had with him to this day is some of the greatest times of my life, but it took me out of my field quite a lot. So eventually, when I wanted to go back into the workforce, I wasn't sure how to do that because the clients that I still had that I could have picked up were in Manhattan, which this is going to sound ridiculous to people who are not from New York City, 2-hour commute each direction for me to do that. Wasn't going to work. So I ended up finding a job at an Equinox that was only 45 minutes from my house, but that was the best possible option for me. So I went to work here, and they hired me as the personal training manager. And I wasn't quite sure what that was when I signed on for it, but everything seemed pretty good. When I got into the job and really found out what it was very much a business manager job. It was managing the personal training business, and it involved using Excel sheets, a lot of Excel sheets, which I had no idea how to do anything on Excel. I learned. But I really missed the mentorship aspect of what I did. It was me at my computer with numbers and asking my trainers about numbers. So I tried to, in addition to my job, doing my job well to the best of my ability, I tried to add on the mentorship component. And I started working with my trainers, and we built this really amazing educational culture where we had an unbelievable staff. We had 2 ATCs on the staff. We had a physical therapist. We had a guy who was a medic in the Israeli army. These people were smart. And we picked their brains, and a couple times a week we would do lunch and learns, and somebody would lead something. They were an expert on shoulder injuries, and we'd talk about that. We'd share articles, and we'd talk about those. And we were always really trying to help each other, educate each other, support each other. We went to conferences together eventually. It was a really great time. And in a little while after that, in addition, at that same time, these are some of the other opportunities that I had that were pretty crazy. And they were in addition to what I was doing, but they added a nice little extra to my life. I wrote a book called Fit and Female that actually I had in process before I went back to work. I did a workout video of my own, and then I did things for Shape Magazine and Women's Health, and later on I was on Dr. Oz, but these were, again, extra little projects that popped up from time to time that were just fun to do. And maybe a year and a half into my working at Equinox in Scarsdale, corporate Equinox called me, and they said, you know, we've got to tell you, the numbers have really changed since you've been there. What are you doing? And honestly, there was no great business plan there. The plan was don't treat people badly, create an environment people want to be at. Lo and behold, people want to be there, and they work there, and money is made. So it was a pretty easy strategy. If anyone is in need of that kind of strategy for their business, I highly recommend it. They said, we hear that you also do some teaching. Would you want to come teach? And I thought, wow, that could be cool. So I ended up teaching a couple of classes for the regional area of like New York City area. And it was very gratifying and a lot of fun. And a couple months into that, they asked me, would I want to go into assistant managing that program? And I did. And that was interesting too, because now I had some managerial experience, and I understood EFTI, which is what it's called, the Equinox Fitness Training Institute. And then a short while after that, my soon-to-be boss called me into the HR office. He was the head of HR at the time, and he sat me down. I had no idea. I thought I might have screwed up or something for him to be calling me in. He said, I would like you to run the program. The person that was in that job was leaving. And I said, I, again, knew this guy well enough to be honest with him, and I think I spent 45 minutes talking him out of why he should hire me. And he, again, spent about 45 minutes telling me why I should do it. And I had the same kind of respect I had for him for my previous mentor who had that other conversation with me. And he said, these are all the reasons I think you're the right person. I think you can do this. And I'm here to help you when you have questions. That's what I'm here for. I'm your supervisor. I'm here to make it work for you. So I took this job, and I started as the national manager of the Equinox Fitness Training Institute. When I started in the job, it was 29 clubs, 600 trainers in 3 markets. It was a 9-year journey, and when I left, I was a senior director. It was 64 clubs, over 2,000 trainers in 10 markets. So it was a fun time to be at the company. It was a period of exponential growth, unparalleled growth for the company. And I was privileged enough to get to work on the personal training product. So what does Equinox training look like? What is a session in an Equinox environment like? And in addition to that, I was responsible for working with the industry's best people to synthesize that point of view and create education to support it. It was a great, great job, an amazing experience, and I never, ever, ever thought I would leave. But you never know where life's going to go. So I got a phone call from 2 people at Nike asking me if I would have dinner. I went and had dinner. I had no idea why they would want to talk to me. And we spoke about everything under the sun for 2 hours, and I still had no idea why they were wanting to have dinner with me. At the end of the dinner, one of them turned to me and he said, so would you be interested in possibly coming to work for Nike? And I said, in Oregon, which is not how it's pronounced, it's Oregon. I live there now, I know. And so after speaking with them a lot and hearing about the opportunity, it was an opportunity doing so much of what I had done at Equinox, but in a different arena, on a global scale, and more directly to a wide variety of consumers, as opposed to Equinox, which really serves a kind of upper echelon, very high-end product. This was much more mass, and with a company I had tremendous admiration for. So I moved my family 3,000 miles across the country, and we live now in Oregon. Oregon, yes. And I work at Nike, and this is where I go to work every day. I literally pinch myself every day. I feel so blessed to be there. It's a great job. It's a job that challenges me and stretches me and uses my skills, I think, in a great way, and I'm adding new skills every day. And there's a long trajectory for me there, I feel, that I'm excited about. So I'm every day optimistic about the future. So that's my story. And now I want to give you the lessons that I think I've gotten from it. This is the big one. Choose a job you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. Confucius said that in 52 BC. So it's not a new idea, but it's a powerful idea. And for me, it was a game changer. I can't even imagine if I had stayed the route that I was on, being miserable in public relations and advertising, where I would be now, who I would be now, what my mental state would be now. It wouldn't be good, I can guarantee you. Follow your bliss. Joseph Campbell, the author of The Power of Myth, he said, follow your bliss. And he encourages you, his readings are really great in general, Joseph Campbell, but he encourages you to really tune in to what your heart wants. Follow your heart, follow your bliss. And I deliberately chose a slide with a young kid there, because sometimes, and they take you through some of these exercises in the books that I referenced, sometimes you lose track of who you are at your core, but when you go back and you think of the things that you really liked as a kid, a lot of that is still in you. As a kid, I loved animals. I still love animals. As a kid, I loved helping people. I still love helping people. As a kid, I wanted to teach people things, and I still like teaching people. So all of that is still a part of who I am. This is a big one. You don't have to see the whole staircase. I think many times we think that we have to set these goals. There's goals to be set, and we need to know where we are in 5 years and 10 years. Honestly, I don't think you always know. I didn't know an iPhone was coming at some point in time. There's stuff ahead that you can't see. So I think the better idea is this one. The most important job is the job you have in front of you today. The most important job is the job you're going to on Monday. I can guarantee you, if you are fully present in that job, giving 110% of yourself, good things will happen. Because you're bringing value. You're bringing value to the people you serve, you're bringing value to the people you work for, and you're a good reflection on other people, so they want to refer you for things. They want to pull you up into things because they know you'll deliver. I had a very interesting meeting with a young woman the other day who was interested in coming to work for Nike. And my first question to her, okay, so why would you want to come work at Nike? And her answer to me was, because it would look really good on a resume. Which I think is a great, honest answer. Whoop. Hold on. I think it's an honest answer, but it's a really bad answer. Because clearly we were just a stop in her journey. We were not any place she needed to hang out because she had other plans. That's the last person anyone's going to hire, P.S. So doing that job excellently. And a lot of times when I talk to trainers who are new to the business and they're telling me, I want to get to the next thing, I don't feel like I'm being challenged here. We start talking about where they are now, and I'm saying to them, sometimes I know their situations. I'm like, have you taken advantage of so-and-so? Are you doing this? And when I talk to them, they're 75%, 50% in their job. They're thinking about the next thing, so they're not fully present in where they are. And that's hurting them, whether they realize that or not. And I'm telling them, you have all this road that you haven't traveled to take full advantage of where you are now. You have all these courses you could have taken. You have all these opportunities you didn't take advantage of. Go there. Take advantage of them. Milk that sucker dry and do all you can to bring tremendous value. Be more than you ever thought you could be in that role. This is a huge one. The more you know you don't know. How many of you know who Tom Myers is? Okay, so he wrote the book Anatomy Trains. He's a really smart guy. And I had, not to name drop, but I got to work with a lot of these people and became very close friends with a lot of these people. And I said this to him at lunch, and this is a brilliant guy. He said, me too, that's exactly how I feel. The smartest people you will meet will tell you this is true. They have so much respect for how much they don't know because they're aware of it and they're constantly learning. That opportunity, that constant learning, that's a key. When I spent those 4 years at home with my son, I was a little bit like Rip Van Winkle when I got back into the industry. I had missed so much. So much had passed me by. 4 years in our industry is a lot, right? If you don't pick up a magazine, or if you don't read a journal, if you're not up to speed on what's happening in 4 years, you're antiquated. And along the same line, there's Tom Myers up there, find and align yourself with the best. Find the people who you really connect with, who are pushing the envelope, who you have enormous respect for, and really sit at their feet as their student. These are some of my mentors. I'm blessed enough to say that now all of these people are my friends because of my role at Equinox. I spent a lot of time with all of them, which is a blessing I just can't even explain. But had I even not had that opportunity, just the teachings that these people offered me, it's been an eye-opening experience. Every one of these guys, and women, in the case of Sue Falsone, they caused a paradigm shift for me. They really were game changers in the way I thought about training and about my profession. So who are those people for you? Always be in search of them. And Charlie Weingroff said something great once to me. He said, every year I go to something I don't agree with. And I thought that was interesting. He said, because in everything there's something to be accepted and something to be rejected. So he makes a point of going to things he's diametrically opposed to at least once a year to see if there's anything in there. And he said, most always there's something in there that he can get that he does agree with or something he hadn't considered that changes his mind. So interesting to me that you can find those things. People have asked me, what's the big secret? Like, what do you do to get to the next level in your career? And that's the secret right there. Work hard and be nice to people. I have a problem when I hear these things about how you should deal with people and how you should sort of manipulate people. Don't manipulate people. Just be straightforward. People have a BS meter, and they know when you're not being authentic. And they know when you're not being real, and it makes them not trust you. But when you're authentically yourself, sometimes a little raw, truly yourself, and you work really hard, good things happen because people trust you, because they know you're a good person that they can believe in, and they trust you because they know you'll deliver. And if they give you something, you're going to do a great bang-up job and make them look good. And that's an amazing, simple recipe. This got a little moved around, but it's synchronicity and serendipity. Some things just seem to line up naturally, and some things tend to fall into your life as happy coincidences. I won't get metaphysical here, but I do believe in the law of attraction, and I do believe in manifesting, and I think so much of what pops up in your life is popping up in your life because it's there for you, because you're on the right path. Joseph Campbell says that a lot. When you're on that path following your bliss, the right things show up. And that's how you know you're on course. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you are really comfortable and you are never nervous about what you're about to do, I would challenge you, because you're probably not growing. It's that nervousness, that uncomfortable feeling, that butterfly in the stomach, I don't think I can do this, oh my gosh, I just did it, that takes you to the next level in anything and opens up so many more opportunities for you in your professional career. And when you're blessed to have success, regardless of where you are on your journey, even if you're just starting, there's someone who's behind you in the path, who's trying to catch up to you. Do all you can to help those people, especially when you find those people who are as committed and passionate about it as you are. Do what you can. That's something as simple as having a coffee or a lunch with them where you let them pick your brains, what programs you took, what books you're reading, anything you can do to pay it forward. We have an obligation. If you're in this room right now, you're a leader in the profession, whether you realize it or not, because the people that are not leaders are not here today. They're not even aware that there's an NSCA conference going on. The leaders are here. So as leaders, you have, I think, an obligation to uplift the entire industry by doing all you can when people ask for your help. And this is my favorite quote. Brian Tracy wrote this in his book. He actually didn't come up with it, but he heard of it first, and they don't know who actually came up with it. Your success in life will be in direct proportion to what you do after you do what you said you were going to do. And that's a true statement. It's not the bare minimum. It's not I just sort of barely got it done and did it kind of half butt cheek, didn't really make 100% effort. No, it's the people that are really doing what they said they're going to do and then doing that much more and bringing that extra value that you always want to choose when you're looking for people for opportunities, when you have something open up. Those are the first people you think of, not the I just barely got it done people. Those are the last people that you really think of. You don't trust them to really take what you were doing and take it to the next level. So we'll have a little time for questions, but I do want to leave you with something that I say when I speak. So if you've heard me speak before, you're going to hear it again. But years ago, one of my friends, very successful in the business, and I was pretty new starting out, he said to me, "Coop," he said, "we have the best job in the world." And I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because we get paid to care about people and to help people." And he's right. And in my professional career, I've had amazing experiences far beyond the professional experience. As a trainer, as a fitness professional, you can become such a part of people's lives. I've been bridesmaids in my clients' weddings. I found out that my clients were pregnant before their spouses knew because they took the test in the bathroom at the gym and came running out screaming with pee on the stick. Look, I'm pregnant. I've had them call me from the hospital and say, "She's here, come over," and hand me their babies who were hours old. I get chills still thinking about it. I'm that important to people as a fitness professional. You are that important to people as a fitness professional. How many jobs are like that? That's amazing. It's an honor, it's a privilege. And there's not a day that I get up that I'm not jazzed about what I do. So I wish the same for all of you, that if you're not on that happy path, or if you're 80% on that happy path, do everything you can to get to that place where you love your job, where you love your day, where you love what you do. We probably only have one life, who knows, but let's make the most of this and let's enjoy every day of this.